When I pull up some of my old recordings, oh my gosh, it makes me cringe so hard. Hey everyone, welcome back to Make the Music, and today I want to break down the top 3 mistakes I learned when I started out getting into this whole recording, mixing, creating my own music thing. Hopefully I can give you some tips that can help speed you along my journey. That's kind of what this channel is for. You can get to making music at your fullest potential. If you want to, you can download my home studio toolbox, which gives you a bunch of free tools that you can utilize in your DAW to help you make better sounding recordings today. So go ahead and download that guide. Anyways, let's get into the 3 things I learned on this recording journey and what I want to share with you guys. Number 1 is it's going to take a long time to get good at this thing. It's not something people want to hear. They want to hear that there's a fast track, there's a quick way to do it. And yes, every one out of 100 people is super talented and can get good at this thing real quick, or they have a great mentor, or they just got a knack for it. But for most of us who aren't that top 1%, it's going to take a lot of time and effort to get good at this recording thing. There's just so much you don't know when you go into making your own music. You have to all of a sudden learn how to arrange. You need to learn how to songwrite correctly. You need to know what a good snare drum sound is. You need to know what a good guitar tone is. And it's totally different than just playing live or doing something, with your friends or in a band or something like that. The recording world is almost a completely different universe when it comes to those things. Yes, a lot of your experience maybe from playing live or learning your instrument, it's going to carry over, but some of that is not going to carry over. And you're really going to have to learn a lot of new concepts when it comes to learning to record. You're going to need to learn what tempo your song should be at. You're probably going to need to learn a bit of music theory. You're going to need to learn about time signatures and things like that, what good drum beats are, especially if you're doing everything yourself. You're probably also going to learn you're not as good of a guitar player or vocalist as you thought you were, that you're pitchy a lot of the time, or you're not in tune as much, or you're playing out of time, right? So these are all things you learn as you go along this journey. These are all things that I learned, and overall, although I've gotten a lot better at recording and producing it, I understand it from that aspect. I'm also a way better musician because you have to really get tighter and better as a player and everything you're doing when it comes to recording. So it's going to take you a long time to get good at this. It's going to take you a long time to learn all the facets and tools. So just accept that early on, that, hey, this is going to be a process. It's going to be an evolution. I'm going to have to really focus on getting better week over week and month over month, and not expect an amazing result right off the bat, because that's just not realistic for a lot of people. So set your expectations properly and you'll be in good shape. I think really if you can put your nose to the grindstone, try and learn this thing, get the right help and education, I think in a year you can start making really good recordings. And number 2 thing that I learned is gear is not going to solve all of your problems. This is the common trap a lot of people fall into. They think, hey, if I just buy a better interface, maybe it's my microphone that's the problem. Maybe I just need a better plugin. So we get stuck in this sort of dog chasing his tail situation where we think if I just buy the next big thing, then I'm going to now sound better. And in some cases, yes, your gear is not at the level it needs to be to get a good recording. You need a condenser mic with an XLR microphone. You need a real audio interface. You need a few plugins to get good drum sounds, but it's not the level that we think it's at. It's not that we always need the newest best thing. Really, that's not going to have that big of an effect on your recording. You see me do challenges on this channel. You see me create songs from scratch. I'm not really using any tools that are particularly out there or super crazy expensive. I've been using the same stuff for like the last 3 or 4 years. I've just really learned that gear super well. I know how it responds to things. And so I'm able to get good sounding recordings because I understand what I'm trying to accomplish. I know how to utilize the gear that I already have. So that's really going to be the deciding factor, not how expensive your microphone is, but how, if you know how to use it, if you're a good performer performing on a good song, that's going to get you 99% of the way there. Like I said, there is a threshold of gear that I think you should achieve. I have a home studio gear guide as well that gives you some very affordable yet great sounding, high quality microphones, interfaces, and all those options there. So you can go ahead and download that guide in the description box as well. But I always recommend people, once you get that baseline of gear, just really try and learn it before you try moving on to something else. Don't try and get a more expensive mic until you've learned the mic you already have. If you've bought a $100 microphone, it's probably good enough. Your $100 interface, it's probably good enough, right? I always tell people, look, all you need is like a Focusrite Solo, an SM58. You can record great sounding vocals in your home studio. All you need is like basic drum samples and you can get a great drum sound. Really, it's more about your creativity, how you're using those sounds, and what you can learn and apply to your recordings. And then my 3rd tip would be listen to recordings critically. This is actually super duper important, and people often overlook this step. They think, hey, if I just enter my studio, I practice, I try and get better, that's going to be enough. And yes, it's going to help. You're going to want to work on your craft. You're going to want to record as many things as possible, even if it sounds bad, to try and get the reps in. But nothing can actually replace the experience of listening critically to the records that you love and think sound great. When I first started out, I had whatever records I had at the time. I really listened to them. How do they pan the guitars? How is the bass EQ'd? How loud is the kick drum? What are the vocal effects? What do they sound like? What melodies is the vocalist using? By really focusing and nailing in on those things, you can get a good idea of what actually makes up a great sounding recording. And by playing those recordings that you think sound great in your home studio, you can actually use that as a great reference when you go into mix and create your own tracks. I'm not saying you have to copy everyone else. I'm not saying your recordings have to sound exactly like everyone else's, but by getting a good idea of what great tracks sound like, you can now be able to sort of take that template to your studio and go, okay, I know what a good kick drum sounds like because I've heard it on X, Y, and Z records. I know it sounds great in here. I love this kind of snare sound. You can start to develop your own taste by listening to your favorite records and go, this is what it should feel like. So when you do create it in your home studio, when you do get to the mixing stage, you know what it should feel like instead of sort of at this guessing stage. Early on, it can be really difficult because a lot of people say, hey, you just need to rely on your ear. Just use your ear. But early on, you're not very good at using your ear because it's not very developed. It's not a muscle that's been worked. You don't know what a good snare drum sounds like. You don't know what a bass guitar and how it should sit in the mix and how it should be compressed. And it's okay. You shouldn't know those things yet. But the problem is you just haven't gotten the reps in to know how those things sit. And by listening to a lot of music in your home studio and listening critically, you can actually really speed up this process and get a lot better very, very fast because you're paying attention. Okay, there's that much distortion on the bass. Or maybe you're listening to the vocal. Okay, it seems like they've taken out some low end and some low mids here. They applied reverb this way. And by trying to match those sounds in your recordings or try to get a similar vibe, it's really going to be that fast track to getting a great sounding mix and a great sounding recording. So those are my top 3 tips. And I actually have a bonus tip here. And that is for every 10 minutes or half hour or hour you spend watching instructional videos on how to record, you need to spend double the time recording in your home studio. That's right. I'm telling you to X out this video. And now that you spent 10 minutes or whatever watching this video, go spend 20, 25 minutes recording in your own studio. Look, I run a music education channel. I think music education is great. I think there's so much amazing information out there. Of course, not just from me, but so many other channels. But if you don't actually ever apply that information, it doesn't matter. It can't help you, right? We can teach you about mathematics or how to drive a car all day, but unless you go and actually try it, you're never going to get better at those things. So for every 10 minutes that you spend watching a tutorial, every half hour, spend an hour in your studio getting it and applying those principles. So go, hey, if I watch a video, I'm going to take some notes. I'm actually going to apply those principles and see if they helped my recordings. So I'm actually, yes, telling you to turn off my video and go record and go get better, because that's the only way you're actually going to improve. If you apply those principles, you listen to what people are saying and not just sort of passively consume it and go, okay, I'm going to do that sometime when I go to record. It's like if you're spending time watching this video, you probably have some time to go and record, and you should go do it because there's no replacement for the actual real experience. As I said before, you can find that home studio toolbox in the description down below if you want some great tools to use in your DAW. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel if you like what I have to say here. I do tons of videos on recording, mixing, producing, how to get great sounding tracks in your home studio environment using plentifully available tools and fairly affordable gear. So if you're down with that, go ahead and subscribe. And anyways, I'll see you guys next time.